Hello, everyone. I'm Amy Andrus, Executive Director of Inland Rivers Ports and Terminals, and welcome to our bonus episode of Dock Talk. We've entered into our third season of Dock Talk, and we're already extremely busy with all of our listeners, all of our stakeholders and partners. So welcome. Welcome to our stakeholders in the United States and around the world. With us today, I'm so excited to introduce our listeners to two people that are very special to me, Erin Howard, Director of We Work the Waterways, and Pam Maxwell, Assistant Director of We Work the Waterways. Welcome to you both. Erin, can you tell us a little bit, just a brief background?
Yeah, thank you, Amy, and thank you for inviting both Pam and I to be on this special episode. So currently, I am the director of We Work the Waterways, which is an educational awareness program supported by the maritime industry under the umbrella of Inland Rivers Ports and Terminals.
And a former educator, right, Erin?
Not in the classroom, but non-formal education. I would go and help schools get programs started as well as do some education in the classroom. Yes.
Perfect. And then Pam, you also have an educator background. Just give us a brief description.
I do. I'm coming on this is my finishing up my 24th year in education, and I've been in little snippets of every bit, all the way from elementary ed, all the way to college, and also doing some education consulting for about 5 or 6 years.
Amazing. So I couldn't have asked for two more perfect suited people to head up the We Work the Waterways arm of Inland Rivers Ports and Terminals with your passion, with your energy and your excitement to want to reach that broader audience, right? And so I just want for our listeners all over the world, there are no greater assets than the employees themselves. And so we work the waterways. Erin, if you could, who are you trying to target within this program and why?
So our mission is to help the maritime shipping and logistics industries make connections within their communities. Those connections can include with students, with educators, and even with each other. And we have even started to invite dignitaries to our events to help connect. You can go in as an employer and talk to um, dignitaries in their office, but when they come out and see our events in action, it's just a different way of connecting and showcasing the importance of our maritime industry.
And so, Pam, when we talk about your events in action, I mean, who are the participants in these events?
Well, right now, our industrial interactive days have involved like juniors and seniors in high school. And so that's where our program has started this past year. But we are building on that, and we are starting to add an elementary program. So we're really excited for 2025 to be bringing on that elementary program and also reaching out to the college level as well. So we have lots in store.
I'm going to totally date myself here, but I remember when I was first entering into secondary education and just kind of like seeing what was out there as far as careers, right? I got that big catalog from the college, and it was like you could pursue this type of a degree and you could pursue this kind, but maritime was never one of the options, right? So, Erin, what are we doing, and what are you doing with the program that's helping educate these high schoolers that hey, there's a ton of jobs out here, pun intended. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think for a long time, educators and even parents have steered their son or daughter towards wanting to and having to go to college. There are so many good trade positions out there, and especially in our industry. So we're trying to open students' eyes to the possibilities in our industry that maybe they don't have to go to college for, that they can come right out of high school. And the real thing we're even trying to expose them to is that in our industry, a good work ethic can and will take them far, and that it will be looked for and it will be rewarded.
And that's so true. There's a spot really for anyone who wants to enter our industry. I have two children of adult age, one boy, one girl, one daughter, one son. My daughter is in law school to go to for maritime law, and my son is in the trades and was actually a terminal operator here in St. Louis. And so maybe secondary education wasn't the path, or university education wasn't the path that he wanted to take. It was the path she wanted to take. But the point is, there's a spot in maritime for all levels of educated professionals. So Pam, what do you see as far as the high schoolers and being able to connect with them and share that message with them that we want you and we need you?
Okay, well, I think that that's exactly what our program does, is reaches out to those kids and lets them know that, hey, we have a spot for you. Um, what I have seen just through, I live next to a Mississippi River myself in a very rural community, and just teaching those kids in the classroom, they don't even know about the river right here in their backyard. So I think what our program does is actually brings awareness to them of an industry that they weren't even aware of, kind of like what you were saying when we got that catalog. I remember that catalog too. And, the maritime industry was not in there. So I had no idea about it either, even though I was in the military, moved around the world and saw different places. I still never put the connection together there. That our program actually brings awareness to them. And actually, I think, and not everybody is college material or wanting to take the college route. So I think that's what our program does. It does is like shows them that there are opportunities, and we're here for you, and we would love to have you. And it's also a growth industry. Like, they can get into this industry on, as a deckhand, but they can actually grow in the industry and become a boat captain. So there's just so many opportunities for them to grow in this industry, even if they do come right out of high school into the
It's
industry. So
And that's such a great point. So Aaron, if you think about like some of the children and the high schoolers that do enter into the industry at maybe a lower level position, there's that ladder of success waiting for them. Can you talk to us a little bit about that ladder and what that looks like, what your message is to some of those high schoolers?
Well, I like to tell the high schoolers at every event, my introduction is that I work with about 200 companies in this industry nationwide. And within those companies, I know deckhands and crane operators and welders, but I also know presidents and CEOs and VPs. And many of those at the top level in our industry got their start as an entry level position. And that's where I can tell them that, that hard work ethic, showing up to work on time, doing your job, asking questions, being interested can and will take you far. And I can tell them examples of real life people that we do know. Many of our events, sometimes we'll even get those CEOs and presidents to come and speak to the kids about their career pathway and how they started at the bottom and had that opportunity to climb the ladder.
That gives me the chills when you think about that, because I have been to some of your events when we've seen those high schoolers, and you've got a real touching story, Erin, where one of the participants from the high schoolers actually reached out just recently. Do you want to share a little bit of that experience real quick?
Yeah, we held an event just a couple months ago at the Port of South Louisiana, and one of the high schoolers actually reached out to one of our company participants wanting to know more. His interest got sparked through attending our event, and he took that extra step to ask, how do I get involved? And so we're working on getting in contact with him and hopefully going to have a story shared on our social media. He's really interested in a career on a towboat, so we're working on getting him on a boat early in January, and we'll be sharing that story when we do.
Oh, I just love it. Pam, let's talk a little bit about the voyage to success. So you may have, some high schoolers that are interested in pursuing maritime. One of the goals in the We Work the Waterways program is to provide those options for certification or further training, if need be. Do we have partner organizations, institutions, universities that can assist with that voyage to education and success?
to be an electrician. Yes, Hines Community College did just add a maritime career center on their campus. So we are, I mean, I feel like that we're getting out there, our industry is getting out there more and more, and people are becoming more aware, and the opportunities are being more open at junior college level to for those kids that do decide to go that trade route, because most students that want to do a trade route, they'll go to a junior college first. So that's the perfect place for us to set up an educational center on the maritime industry. So, you know, some of them, a lot of programs have already been in place, like to be a plumber, you know, they have programs like that, or to be a chef, going into culinary arts. But now we have the maritime programs at some of our junior colleges, so that has opened up some doors for them to learn more. And then also, if they get into it and they decide they want to go a full 4 years and then come into the industry, they can do that as well. So there's plenty of avenues of
For
different
sure.
ways that they can come in.
We're going to take just a very brief pause and we are going to come back to our We Work the Waterways team. But we wanted to take this brief pause and introduce you to a new IRPT member. It's the Core Resource Group. As I mentioned earlier, the best assets that our companies have are the personnel and the workers themselves, because without the workers, we cannot be profitable as a business, no matter what your business is. It just so happens we're in transportation. So I want to introduce you to Core Resource Group and the many services that they offer. Hi, everyone. So we're welcoming Mr. Matt Furman, the CEO with Core Resource Group. Core Resource Group is a newer member of IRPT, and I am so excited to introduce you to Matt and all of the service offerings that Core provides. So Matt, welcome. Welcome to your first podcast with IRPT, and welcome to your association.
Thank you. Thanks for having me and thanks for the time.
Absolutely. So you are physically in Texas, is that right?
Just west of Houston, Texas, a place called Katy, Texas.
Oh, okay. We have several members down in Katy, Texas. Would love to just kind of introduce you to those members. Maybe we can have a networking hour or so down there the next time I'm there. So that's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
So tell me, how did Core Resources, well, first of all, um, I'm going to date myself here. Back in the 80s, there used to be the store Toys R Us, right? And so you knew every holiday that came around, if you needed to go buy a toy, you'd go to Toys R Us. I don't think you're selling cores. What is Core Resource Group?
So we are a maritime recruitment and staffing organization. We've been in business for 14 years. Um, and we started off doing executive search for marine terminals, vessel owners, class societies, offshore energy companies, and uh, did that for a number of years. And then we got into the contract staffing business, so kind of the USL&H, the high risk staffing of onshore facilities, and then eventually got into the crewing of vessels and ships and maritime crewing. And we place roughly about 2,000 mariners a year, and onshore direct hire as well, in various executive positions, around the U.S.
So usually, as far as, business, it's market and demand. Would you say that Core Resource Group was founded because it's so challenging to find really professionals in maritime? As far as the executive search part of it, I guess there's, for me anyway, I'm a compartmentalist. So I say we have compartments of executive search, we have a compartment of vessel crewing, and so on and so forth. But when I was going to college there and I was looking through the catalog of offerings of what I could be when I grew up, port director wasn't in there. Is that what you're hearing from some of your clients, that it's hard to find that qualified applicant in the executive search?
Yeah, anytime. So we're comprised of executive search, mid-management search, onshore staffing, and offshore crewing. Any position that has 20 to 50 plus people reporting to it, the leadership and the culture match it becomes high profile. And so what happens is we finding good people. You can find people with experience, but it's the people that can actually grow the business and create a good
Right.
culture is kind of the difference, where we come in and have to really drill down into what's the culture and the qualifications of the individual. Good people typically are very hard to find. They always will be, because they're embedded somewhere else. And so usually it takes some macroeconomic event or something to dislodge one, that and so we trade in those marketplaces. But the market is short of good people. I think, obviously we had the 2008 downturn, which slowed some hiring down for entry level folks. We had some slower markets in 2014, 2015, and then we had COVID. And so we've had kind of three major economic events that have really kind of delayed the growth and development of um, professionals between the ages of, call it 25 to 45 in the last 15 years.
You know, it's amazing. Last night I saw a TikTok and it was talking about how we should all be scared. If you look at the trades now and who's working in the trades, it's all of these, middle-aged professionals, and there's not too many young professionals seeking out the trades right now. Are you worried about the age group of where we currently are in the maritime transportation, or do you feel confident that we have the ladder of success in motion for them?
I think there's a big problem. I think the aging workforce is a problem for trades. I still think like there's been a lot of, yeah, everyone wants to be an Instagram influencer or do some sort of like fractionalized drop ship, try to work out of their house, and so a lot of people are trying to make money through the internet rather than going out and putting their hands on things. And I think that's kind of happened at scale the last 10 years. And so there's a shortage on that side for US. What's kind of like off one is mm, there's been a lot of breakthrough in the medical industry. So life expectancy has increased. So people are actually working longer. So that's kind of stoved off this big drop off, as well as um, a lot of immigrants that have come into the US in the last 3 to 4 years have backfilled a lot of the trade labor, trade skill gap as well. And so I think with kind of like medical allowing people to work and live longer with some of the immigration, it's been kind of masked, I
Mhm.
believe, um,
Sure.
until this point.
To have placed 2,000 mariners a year, that's amazing. Where do you go to find your entry level mariners to place?
So we have very good relationships with maritime schools around the U.S. We manage the Strategic Sea Lift Officer Program for the Maritime Administration, which is supports the Strategic Sea Lift Officer Program for Military Sea Lift Command. So we're very integrated and intertwined in the maritime schools producing these mariners. We also have large training relationships and programs that allow us to take unlicensed people off the street and get them trained up and put them on vessels for OSs and ABs and things like that. We have a database here of roughly 600,000 maritime professionals. That's worldwide. And that's taken 20 plus years of networking and being in this space to grow that.
So there's something that you said there that caught me, and it's, the relationships with some of those maritime institutions. Do you have clients that will actually pay for training for an entry level, person entering into the maritime?
Yes and no. Depends on how desperate they are. So if desperation calls, then they'll cover the training. For us, we'll actually do like we'll split the cost of the training with the mariner, right? If they're trying to come in and we'll work out a deal with them on we'll cover the cost, we'll split it, um and then do like kind of a payback program on the first hitch or two to get them in the machine.
hmm So there's been a lot of conversation lately about drug testing with the legalization of marijuana. Are you finding it difficult to find qualified applicants that can actually pass those tests?
With the legalization, yeah, the Department of Transportation is the Department of Transportation. It's a zero tolerance realm. So there has been a slight increase, like of people that have pop positive. It's just if you're going to be in the transportation game, the DOTs, you just don't mess with it. Any type of large tonnage transportation or terminal work is zero tolerance, and so regardless of there has been an increase. I don't know what the percentage is. It could be like a 10, 15% increase. And say, say let's just say your candidate pool pre-COVID was at 100%, and then COVID wiped out about 35-40% of it with remote work, so now you're down to like 60%. And then of that 60%, you're probably, 15% of that might be popping positive for drug tests, things like that. And so, I think the candidate market's been whittled down by like 40-50%.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's why we've been super busy ever since, because it's, you've got everyone trying to become an Instagram influencer. You've got the remote work, companies willing to beam 40 or 50K into someone's living room, right?
Right.
And so that puts pressure on employers. And then, but although the remote realm is trying to go away, but there's still roughly 40% of the workforce that's still remote.
Hmm.
And then you have, you kind of have the drug stuff. So all of that kind of pulls on the job market availability. And I think that's going to continue to get worse over the next couple of years.
Oof.
Yeah.
So I want to shift gears here, and I want to talk about your crew kind of resourcing. Um, can you talk to us about what does that look like as far as I know that there's vessels and then there's others. Talk to us about your crew resourcing services that you offer.
So we got into the crewing space kind of just by request and demand. The crewing market, we cover everything from tugs and barges, limited tonnage stuff, all the way up to 1,600 ton and unlimited tonnage vessels, and both U.S. flag and foreign flag as well. What we do is when a vessel owner is in trouble or like they can't sail a vessel, rather than taking a hit on the day rate, being able to charter that vessel out, not meeting their minimum COI requirements, we can go find the chief engineer or first AEs or assistant engineers needed or the QMEDs to run those vessels and keep them underway. Same thing on the deck side, masters, chief mates, second mates, third mate type level workers, and then all the unlicensed. And so I think where we really have been able to help companies is, they run into a crewing issue, rather than not being able to charge a day rate for that vessel, they'll call us and say, hey, I need, QMed, or I need an engineer, or I need a inland pilot with Western Rivers navigation abilities. And so we basically go into our network and string these needles out of the haystack and drop them into these owners to get their vessels underway, because it's cheaper for them to pay our markup than it is to not be able to bill their 5, 10, 20K a day
Yeah.
rate.
Exactly. And so as you just said that about certainly the inland captains, because we do have such a huge need for captains inland. I'm already like thinking, oh, I need to contact so and so. I need to tell them about core because you're absolutely right. It's better to pay that markup than not have a captain to steer the ship. But I did want to ask you, looking at your crew sourcing services, do you find that it's more deep draft? Like, what's the percentage there of your or your split there of is it 50% deep draft vessels, 50% inland and barges? What does that split look like?
We're probably 60% deep water, unlimited tonnage stuff, 40% inland. Uh, and it ebbs and flows. Sometimes we're slanted one way or the other, just depending on seasonality and what's going on in the marketplace. There's already a shortage of mariners, and so it's interesting. You'll see like, the commercial container side takes off and pulls a bunch of mariners off, and then oil and gas takes off and pillages from the deep water vessels, and then military sea lift command can't cruise 17 of their ships because they're getting pillaged by probably the inland and the oil market, and all these merchant vessels that are subsidized by the government to do work overseas. And so there's a lot of it's interesting. It's like squeezing a balloon, you know, like one side, like, you know, it pops
Yeah.
out the other. And so it's always moving. The inland side is obviously, you know, grain season and the seasonality piece, it peaks and troughs, you know, so you'd ask me that question and it, you know, it could be 50-50, it could be 60-40 one way, it could swing 70-30 to the other. It's all seasonality and then where the market's moving.
So, leading into this new administration, this new yet returning administration, what we saw during the Trump administration was a lot of emphasis on private-public partnerships. And when you think of private-public partnerships, you think of privately funding public infrastructure. But I would love for us to really look at this from a different perspective, right? Privately operating public infrastructure. You at Core have um, the mariners and the professionals that we need to perhaps operate. And what I mean by that is the U.S. Coast Guard right now is currently operating at a 10% workforce deficit. So much so that Admiral Linda Fagan has been quoted in saying, "We cannot do the same with less." So not only are they doing the same work with less people, President Biden signed an executive order expanding their authorities to include cyber. So now they're doing more with less. I would love this administration to take a look at a P3 where it's privately operating public infrastructure. So what if our government could contract with Core to put professional mariners to mark our river system? Because what's happening is the U.S. Coast Guard saying we can no longer maintain the aids to navigation. So we're just going to pull out all the aids. Well, when you do that, your barge lines won't be insured to run a river. But what if we could come to Core and say they have the mariners, they can do the work. Now let the government pay them.
Yeah, we're actually in talks with a few. We have two other government entities we're working with, kind of on the same. It's gotten to the point where they, you know, either ships don't sail and they can't support our strategic, you know, sea lift needs for national security or not. And so you have to change the way you're doing business. And so um, we are seeing a lot of government entities getting a little bit more leeway on doing work with private companies directly. And rather than just saying we don't have the people, we can't. You have to get creative and finding. We're seeing a little bits of that here and there. You know, I mean, if you look at like Military Sea Lift Command, they just tied up 17 ships, and that's our sea lift, you know,
Mhm.
to go to war with other countries, and we can't crew those ships up. It's a massive issue, right? So it's at a kind of a whatever it takes. If it's the U.S. Coast Guard doing inland work, um, yeah, I think there is a call to do one-off contracts, uh, even contract staffing, just to backfill what the where the holes are, just to elevate and lift and then maybe convert them. So I would say that government works in a certain way. I think the private sector is very efficient. So I think you're going to see a lot of, you know, if you look at like the Department of Government Efficiency and kind of where this is headed. If you look at, you know, NASA was shut down, SpaceX filled the void to do government work more efficiently. My general gut is if someone like Elon's running a department like that, then they're going to be looking at private sector entities that will be able to add value to continue missions along, I think, in general.
As CEO of Core, would you be open to changing your name to be Coast Guard Services Are Us? No, I'm kidding.
Coast Guard, yeah, Coast Guard on demand,
Yeah.
ready, uh, ready at strategy or whatever. Yeah, the Coast Guard, you know, I know they've been struggling to find people. We could definitely help. I mean, there's all kinds of options. It's anything from folding seasoned professional maritime professionals into the Coast Guard on contracts that are not on the government, maybe not on the government pay structure, but you could fold them out. They got another 10 years of work.
We've done the same thing at the Army Corps, right? We have our military Army Corps professionals, and then we also have our civilians mixed in there. Why couldn't we do that with the Coast Guard?
Yeah, that could easily be done. It's just a matter of
I like it.
it's at the highest level. It's like, well, we haven't done this before. You almost have to have like a change agent from the inside saying, hey, let's do business a little bit different. And rather than going through the process, let's just, whoever at the highest level probably have to set up like a private contract partnership department and then go through kind of like mini RFP processes or something like that, where they're still checking the regulatory boxes on how funds are distributed, but you can do it in a more efficient way, I believe.
Matt, we're going Inland River Sports and Terminals each spring. We go to Washington, D.C., and we advocate for legislation and educate the lawmakers on the impacts that their decisions have on our industry. I hope that you consider going to Washington with me. You and I can make an impact with the Coast Guard Subcommittee of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Let's do it. I have no problem bringing a Thor's hammer right through that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
one last question for you. What's next for Core and all of those wonderful teammates that you have? Where do you want to go? What can we help with? And what do you want our listeners to know?
I'm a graduate of the United States Merchant Marine Academy. I'm a mariner by trade. I've got terminal experience. I was a terminal operator. We're the largest maritime recruitment agency in the United States. We eat, breathe, and sleep maritime, and we have a lot of resources here. And so, what's next for us is we've actually just developed a product called WorkCore, which is going to be kind of a request a mariner platform that ties into our database to help, if someone's looking for mariners or terminal workers, they can go into WorkCore and click request and put the job in, and our team will be notified, and we can build intimate pools that they can manage through our
Nice.
network. So that's going live in January. We're
It's like Uber. It's like Uber, but for maritime workers.
yeah, yeah. So we'll have that live. So if anyone's interested, we would just have to do obviously rate negotiations and get that locked in, and then the ability to request would be there. What else? We've got so our company is comprised of Core Group Resources is like the parent company. We have a Core Group Consulting, which does like maritime consulting for terminals and vessel owners. We also have another group that does maritime litigation support. So what does that mean? So we won the contract representing the port during the Baltimore Bridge collapse. And so we're doing root cause analysis, things like that. So we have expert witnesses on site. We have a company called Maritime Licensing Agency that processes maritime licenses for mariners. So anyone looking to get in the industry, we have licensing professionals with over almost 30 years of experience that can help people get processed into the industry. We just opened up an office in Trinidad to do maritime recruitment and support for our clients down there. And then we just opened up another office in Guyana, which is supporting all the oil finds and infrastructure. So while we've always been kind of a United States-based company, just in the last year, we've headed towards some of these more maritime, robust frontier regions, if you would call it that. Mariner by trade, terminal superintendent. and I've probably placed over, I don't know, even know what the number is, probably 10,000 people in the last 20 years, you know,
Wow.
through every type of maritime profession you could imagine. And so um, helping people, connecting people to destiny is our mission, and really being a guide on for people in the industry where the work is. If it's mariners coming ashore that, you know, have fallen in love and or babies on the way, we do a lot of that work, you know, helping them find shoreside jobs to vessel crewing. And we're really good at, I mean, if you get pinned and you don't know what to do and you need someone to figure it out, we are phenomenal problem solvers with people, personnel, projects. And so we do fix a lot of problems when people get into pickles, if that
I
makes sense.
see so many synergies with CORE, the work that you're doing, and our We Work the Waterways program. We are working to encourage and attract those high school students to look at maritime as an option. So I do hope that your pool of qualified applicants increases tremendously due to our program.
Yeah, we have a guy, Ben Adams, who runs. We're actually funded by MARAD to push the high school, the K through 12 initiative. And so I got to get you in touch with Ben Adams on
Yes.
because we're fully embedded
Yeah.
in those programs. And so part of our job is to make sure all these programs are talking to each other and know it's
Absolutely. We would love that. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It was so great to meet you and to learn more about your passion and your energy. I'm so excited to have CORE as a member of IRPT, and I'm so excited that you had the opportunity to talk to our listeners from around the world today. So thank you so much for your time.
thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that overview of services that Core Resource Group offers. And if there's something that I want the listeners to understand, is that transportation and our industry is a reliable career path, right? What we saw during COVID was that we're essential, right? Transportation and the transportation professionals that work in this industry were essential. We have job security. So we have our We Work the Waterways team that's helping attract the high schoolers to explore more maritime careers. We have members like the Core Resource Group who are actively trying to place the workers into good paying jobs right now, as well as offering additional services like mobile transloading, etc. But we want to go back to our We Work the Waterways program and how you too can help grow this program. But I do want to shift gears because I've heard throughout the past few months, Pam, that the importance of a multiple touch point throughout a student's career is important. So can you tell us a little bit about your vision to reach some of the elementary students?
Well, right now our elementary program is in the works, and we hope to have that program established to where it is accessible to educators, where we can send them a packet. And we're talking about any teacher from kindergarten to sixth grade, and they can take that packet, and it's going to be teacher friendly, user friendly. Some of it will be scripted because it is a new industry. It could be a new industry to that teacher who receives that packet. So it should be something that he can use easily and implement in the classroom. It's going to be integrated like others, all the subjects are going to be in there, from math to science to social studies. So your integrations there. But we are starting off, we can do little packets like that, but we're also doing like events at museums, children's museums, where the students actually come to us and or to that museum. So Aaron and I might not be there at the museum, but they have an educator in place where the educator can easily take our packet, implement it for whatever school is coming to that children's museum. So you don't necessarily have to be at a museum next to a port. it can be used anywhere, in the classroom, at a museum. But we see ourselves eventually moving, that program into maybe eventually being able to send like kits out to our teachers. And this is down the road a little bit, but it was just a brainstorming idea that we've just come up with, where the teachers actually get a crate that has everything they need for all the stations to set up in their classroom. The teacher will open that box, all her supplies are there, all the lesson plans are there. She can keep it for 2 to 3 weeks, implement those things, have fun in the classroom with their kids. And then of course they can pack it all back up, put the label on there, put the zip ties on there, and then ship the crate back to us. So we're hoping to have those kits accessible within the next 24 months.
And it would be phenomenal if we had a grant to help us pay for that, right?
Yes,
A
we are.
grant, or if you know of a foundation geared towards elementary students that would help us propel that elementary program forward, to any of our listeners around the world out there, we would totally appreciate that consideration. But Erin, if you had one shot to maybe it's a plea to our listeners, right? What's your call to action? What do you need from our listeners out there?
Well, there's multiple ways that people can support this program. And, we are a 501(c)(3). And so, of course, we need funding in order to do these things. We need funding for staff time as well as to take it around the country and the materials. And so that's definitely one way. But in addition to that, we need people to come out and volunteer at our events. So, even if you only have an hour that day, you could come out and just help serve lunch. Or if you can be there all, in the morning, you could help with bus unloading and directing of traffic. We need timekeepers. We need all kinds of volunteers to make these events happen. Another way that people can follow and support us is just by simply following our social media, and sharing it with people who in your audience you think might be interested in what we're doing. Social media is definitely a way that we can reach audiences. We're not a physical location that people can visit. So it's another way for us to get our message out. But I just want to encourage everybody to get involved in some way. Our industry is small, and it's going to take us all banding and collaborating together to get this message out. So we need everyone to get
We
involved.
do. We really do. So, I
Yeah.
mean, support, follow, volunteer as far as supporting any donation from of any size, $25 all the way up to 5 million we'll take. No, I'm kidding. We could do a lot with 5 million, couldn't we? It's for everyone.
Yeah, that would be so nice.
Any
And our
further
link and everything is in the description, where they can click on our link and go visit and learn more about, our program, and mine and Erin's information's on there. So just feel free to reach out.
And the event schedule is in there
Yeah.
as well. We already have what, 15, 17 events already scheduled for this year.
Yes, for the spring season. We have a wave of events in the spring and another wave in the fall, and we're looking at 15 to 17 events already this spring.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Is
Yeah,
that a record? Is that a record amount of events for a season?
I think it is, and
Oh my gosh.
we continue to grow, as we get more and more supporters involved, and that we can take it to more places and do more.
Yeah, so you've got a few new cities on the roster this season, Milwaukee being one of them. Who else are your new ones?
Uh,
K
um,
So
Kansas City,
looking at Chicago.
Chicago, Memphis. We had the first one in Plaquemine. No, Pascagoula. Yeah, it was Pascagoula. I'm sorry,
Uh-huh.
getting my
yeah,
P cities mixed up, but
well,
the first.
actually, in the fall, both Plaquemines and Pascagoula were new cities.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And so our
You're
first
right
event
on
of
the
20
P's.
our first event of 2025 though will be in Vicksburg, February 7th, Vicksburg, Mississippi. And then we'll follow the next week, February 12th and 13th in Baton Rouge.
What kind of growing pains have you experienced, or has it just all been good since we've started?
It Of course, there are growing pains with starting new. We had to come up with all new logo and mission, vision, value statement, create a new website and materials, but it's a good growing pains. Really have appreciated being under the umbrella of Inland Rivers Ports and Terminals and having that internal support, a team to bounce ideas off of and help share the workload and get things done, as well as the audience that we have been exposed to through IRPT. We've definitely picked up some new supporters and interest in this program.
Any growing pains for you, Pam?
Well, I'm kind of new. I just came on board maybe a little over a month ago. So I'm kind of old school. So the technology's been a little learning curve for me. Working remote, that's kind of a new thing as well. Even though I've taught online classes for universities, this, sitting for a meeting and doing all our collaboration, that's, a little different from what I'm used to. Usually we sit at a round table and we collaborate. But I'm loving it. And I've loved the new learning that I'm learning because, if you're not, I just think you should be a lifelong learner all the time. So,
Oh, absolutely. Right.
yeah,
I mean,
so
Erin, you and I are both learning new things every day,
every day.
from learning Canva to WordPress to,
Yes.
man,
Same here.
it's tough.
Those are all new programs,
I
but
know.
we're all growing.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so it's fun. But they're good growing pains. So I'm just thankful to be here, and I'm just very excited about the collaboration piece. And we even have a advisory committee for our education part, and it was great to meet all of them and be able to collaborate and bounce ideas. That's always a good thing. So
Oh, you're not making these decisions in a silo? You have an advisory council?
I do. We do. We do.
Yeah,
I
we
get that a lot. Like I get that question, like, what authorities do you have? Well, I have none. I have a board, right? I don't get to make any decisions.
So it's nice to have them. We actually met with them this morning, so it's good to bounce ideas off of them and them give feedback. And so it's just really good.
Yeah, that's something we didn't mention. We do have about a 20-member advisory council made up of our supporters in the industry, also other partners similar to IRPT like AWO and WCI. Our members from those organizations are on the board. And we even have an educator, Dr. Terrence James, and a former educator, Kelly DeMarco, who is now involved in government, but to have their perspective on this board or council is great, especially since we're an education program. So to have that team to run ideas by and help us continue to grow, expand, and take this program further, it's great.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. And I wanted to go back, Pam, because you said that you're new, in the past month or so, but you're not new to maritime. You're a lifelong river lover, so I just want to make sure
Yeah.
everybody, all of our listeners knew that.
Yeah, that is true. And to be honest with you, I actually met Aaron through this industry, like I think 14 years ago. And so she and I reconnected back in September up in Memphis. So it's just awesome to reconnect with her, and it just so happened that y'all needed someone to come on board. So um, yeah. So yeah, I'm
Welcome
not new.
aboard.
I'm new to all the new technology stuff.
Exactly.
But it'll
So
come.
So, Erin, I want to thank you for my We Work the Waterways pullover. Definitely want to encourage anybody that may be listening or watching, if you want to get your very own We Work the Waterways merch, the link is in our description. All of the proceeds go directly right back into the program for further outreach to both the elementary and the high schoolers. So definitely want to just thank you for considering supporting us through your monetary donations, through following We Work the Waterways on social media, and volunteering your time if you can make it. Don't forget to check out all of our information, all of our events, how to support, how to get your gear, how to contact Erin and Pam, all of which is in the description. Thank you both so much for your passion, your energy, your excitement for this program, and your willingness to share with our listeners.
Yes. And if you
Thank you.
see one of our events somewhere and you're in that area and you want to come check it out, we'd love for you to volunteer.
Come
So,
on down.
come
That's
on
right.
down.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So today we are here at the We Work the Waterways event. This event is for high schoolers, so we're just trying to get a little awareness for other pathways if college may not be that #1 interest. We've got people who say they want to be welders or they want to be engineers. You can do all that stuff right here on the water, so just trying to give them a different avenue.
We have over 12 schools in the area who are in attendance, over 400 students between the next 2 days, and we have many partners and businesses who are here supporting this program and interacting with the students.
I think it's an awesome event for people who don't know the opportunities beyond college. So this is like another career opportunity that you can make a lot of money without getting a degree.
My favorite part was probably the Louisiana Cat Simulator. Yeah, that was pretty fun, driving the trucks and, getting that experience.
Just want to thank all the companies who are involved in this program. Not only do we get their financial support, but it's the in-kind contributions, attending these events, and all the background help. It is the people who make this program work.